Good morning, Cerebral NFL fans. My name is Steven Hyder. This is K-City Sports Media Company. In today's topic, we're going to talk about pass rushers. Let me speak clearly here, guys. Defensive ends in terms of free agency, the draft, how we improve this football team here in Philadelphia. To begin with, let me say, hey, what's up, Cree? How you doing, buddy? Lit City Lambo, man. I thank you all so much for already being in the chat, ready to go. Thank you guys so much. Before we get into all the craziness of all this stuff, guys, let me just go ahead and plug a couple of things so we can move on and get through it. For you guys who asked for the quarterback tracking journal, it took me a long time, guys, to get it published and to write all that stuff for you. But that quarterback tracking journal is complete. It's linked below inside of the description of the video. It's the first link you will see. Guys, it's a great way if you're going to watch film of the Eagles, another football team. I got one for the Eagles. I got one for the general NFL. There's little kind of cool little pieces of information inside the journal for you guys. Great way of tracking the progress of quarterbacks, especially if you're going to look at these collegiate guys and try to grade what you're seeing there. Just a good way of kind of having that stuff set up for you. So that's all linked down below, guys. All right. Defensive ends, pass rushers. Something that I feel personally, ladies and gentlemen, has to be improved in the Philadelphia Eagles team. And I understand there's complexity to the discussion about how we should view the situation when it comes to the pass rush, right? Because your coverage, your pass rush, they kind of go hand in hand, right? They have to be in unison with one another. And if they're not in unison with one another, you're going to have issues. You're going to have problems. And I think that's fair to say. And I think early on, there were instances where our coverage was just too soft for the pass rush to really be able to do anything, right? It did take, to be fair, it took Jonathan Gannon time to do things along the front of the offensive line to get guys freed up on matchups, to use Stwin. Really? I combined stunts and twist together for stunts. Stunts and twist together to get these guys these one-on-one looks, right? I do think that that's all fair. That's all fair in the analysis. There's no doubt about it. But I do think that starting from early on, we saw them run five-man fronts with Jannard Avery trying to create the one-on-one matchups. And overall, I got to say that we could have been better at basically generating pressure on quarterbacks. Now, I will say, if you look at knocking a guy off of his mark, okay, if you're just looking at the aspects of can we take a quarterback and make him move, make him get uncomfortable, the Eagles are really good at that. We've been good at that for several years. But when it comes to actually completing the plays and getting sacks, and then also, in addition to that, just hitting the quarterback, getting your hands on the quarterback, we really took a dive down this year, guys. I mean, there's a reason we went from being top 5 in the league in terms of pressures to now like 31st. I mean, you can't take that out of the equation, that we got to get better here. But easy to say these things, right, ladies and gents? You're going to say these type of things, you better have a plan, right? Or else you're just talking out your know what. So what is the plan? What do you do here? Well, let's talk from the beginning. Ryan Kerrigan's probably gone after the season, older guy. Respect his game from years past. I mean, he was just such a good football player, had a really good ending to his career in Philadelphia, matched up against a guy that probably shouldn't have been in the game, and Kerrigan took advantage of it. With that said, he's probably not that, guys. He's probably not going to play that role of the veteran pass rusher. I'll always leave the door a little open because you can never say never, but seems like that's probably a guy we're going to move on from. The next guy that we would have to talk about, ladies and gents, would have to do with Derek Barnett, former first-round pick. Generally speaking, I will give Howie Roseman credit. When Howie Roseman is picking in the top 16 picks, I think he normally does fairly well. It's really where we get shaky in the first round is anything in the 20s. I don't think our track record has been quite as great recently. With that said, Derek Barnett is kind of the one kind of glimmering, shining example where you say, like, hey, he missed on that guy, though. I think it's complex. I think you can argue he didn't necessarily miss on him, but he just wasn't quite as good as we thought he was going to be, right? Derek Barnett's a difficult one to judge because I do think there's talent with Derek Barnett. I don't think Derek Barnett's a scrub and can't play, but he just never produced the way that we thought it was going to happen in Philadelphia. There were a couple of seasons where he did finish top 50 in pressures. And I know that people really judge it by sacks, and I get it. Sacks are just easy to see, and it's, you don't have to do a lot of explaining to explain the guy's good if he's got sacks on his resume. Why pressures, you got to go into a deeper analysis to make your point, right? I totally get all that. But you can't rule out the fact that it is important to knock a guy off his spot. And Derek Barnett was good at certain points in his career doing that. With that said, I just don't think his production warrants a major contract. And I'm not sitting here insinuating, guys, that Derek Barnett will or will not be back. I don't know. I don't make the decisions, guys. But what I will say is that my expectation is if he's brought back, it's going to be a prove it deal. It would very much be a prove it deal with Derek Barnett. So when you're talking about prove it deals, that means you better have plan B, C, D, E, F, and G, right? You better have a lot of options. We're in luck. There are options. There are options in free agency. There are certainly options in this draft. And that's what today's topics is about, guys. We're going to dive into what those options are, how good the options are, and where some of these guys fit into the this discussion we're having, if you will. So to begin with, let's talk about free agency. Guys, there's a lot of people here, so I can't go into in-depth detail. I'm going to have things listed on the website. I'm going to have videos where I break down individual players. Today's not, this is an overview, guys. I can't get too far into depth with some of these guys. I think the guy that to me is the premier pass rusher from this year's free agency class is Emmanuel Ogbah, pass rusher of Miami. Young guy still. I mean, he's not like first coming out of his first year contract young. He will be, I think, 28 by the time the season starts. So 27, 28 is his age area, guys. But look, last season, he had 24 quarterback hits. He had a forced fumble and 9 sacks. You pair that guy up with Josh Sweat, with the athleticism he possesses, I think you would have something. Now, everything is a cost analysis discussion. I don't think that Ogbah's contract is going to get above $10 million. I think it'll be below that. And we did, in fairness, just pick up the 5th-year option this year with Derek Barnett, which was $10 million. And then, of course, we took that base salary and converted it into some option-based money and then lowered it for 2021's hit. But nonetheless, it would be less. He's probably going to come in less, probably. Keyword is probably, guys. You can never tell the market. I'm always a little careful there. But the projection is to be less than that. The number 2 guy I would put on this list, and by the way, you can switch some guys and say, I would put this guy 2, I'd put this guy 4. To me, that's not really the discussion. I'm just giving options, if you will. But I do think that Ogbah, in my opinion, is the top of the list. The number 2 guy I put in here is Charles Harris, defensive end from Detroit, 27-year-old, 26, 27-year-old again. Guy's young enough. He's got enough experience so you know that he can play in the league. But he's also still young enough to produce, to do something for you here. 16 quarterback hits on the season, 2 forced fumbles, and 8 sacks. Another guy there's some production here. He's probably not going to cost you anywhere near as much as what Derek Barnett just cost you this past year. Projection, complete projection there. But nonetheless, I think he's the right kind of guy for the right kind of cost here, if that's what you're looking for. The number 3 guy I'll talk about is Rasheem Green, defensive end, Seattle, younger guy, 24, 25-ish. This is a younger guy, great size profile, 6'4", 277. He's got that size and that length that you look for to set the edges, so gives you some versatility in terms of being able to play the run. Probably still a little development needs to occur with that pass rush, if I'm being honest, but it's there in small spurts. 15 quarterback hits on the year, no forced fumbles, 7 sacks. 25 years old. That's a guy that I think I'd still have interest in if I was the Eagles. Number 4, and this is going to get into this aspect of where the fits are, right? I'm looking at fits, and this fit to me has to do with being still under the age of 30, coming from a system that is going to be somewhat familiar, assuming Gannon is back. I can't say exactly, guys. But Al-Qaedin Muhammad from Indianapolis. I'm sorry, I probably just butchered that young man's name. I apologize for that. But he's 27 years old. He had 13 quarterback hits on the season, 1 forced fumble, 6 sacks. He's coming out of Eberflus's system. I think that makes sense, guys. This is a guy who's young enough. He's productive. He knows the system. This is not a guy that you're looking into to necessarily being a star in your system. He's a role guy. He's going to play a role for you. And I do think that there's some utility and some use to this young man. Speaking on that, we're going to stay with Indianapolis, guys. I'm going to give you one more teammate of his. Another guy. He's about 26, 27 years old. Kamoko Toure. I don't know these guys' names like that, guys. I don't know how to enunciate them. I apologize. Indianapolis, 8 quarterback hits on the season, no forced fumbles, 6 sacks. I would probably put Muhammad above him in terms of the abilities, but they're both respectable guys, especially if they're like your 3rd or 4th option. These guys are your 3rd or 4th option, and you can get them on a very good deal. I would go for them. I would definitely take a chance on bringing them in. So those are the 5 guys that I think that most of us probably have heard of before. We know who they are. There's some familiarity here. I'm pretty sure I'm not shocking you guys with any of those names. But I want to talk about the guys that maybe are still young, maybe did not have that kind of production, but at least at one point it had a pretty high grade on them. And to begin with, I want to talk about, once again, we're talking about, I love the scheme they came from. Not that they're necessarily a fit for our scheme, but I love the scheme they played in. And I love the fact that this could be a really good third or fourth option off the bench for you. I shouldn't say third or fourth option off the bench, but third or fourth guy in the rotation, if you will. Carl Grandison, defensive end, New Orleans. 25, he'll be 25, I think. He's 24, 25 years old, guys, by the start of the season. Eight quarterback hits on the year, 3 sacks. I mean, look, if we're being fair, it's not like it's not like Derek Barnett gave us a ton of production, guys. I think it's fair to look into these aspects of guys as being a rotational piece for far less money than what you were probably going to pay Derek Barnett and still getting exactly the same type of production. Now, are these guys quite as good as Derek Barnett? Probably in some instances, not so much. In other instances, maybe so. The next guy I want to talk about, you guys know I'm a pump up an NC State guy. All right, this guy played at San Francisco for a few years, was a huge recruit in the state of North Carolina. He came out of Wake County, the Raleigh area. I know this young man very well. Kentavious Street. He's a 26-year-old. On the season, he had 5 quarterback hits, 3 sacks. I love that San Francisco system. I love how physical those guys play. This is a physical defensive end, and he's very much an athlete. This is a very athletic guy. The next guy up on this list I want to talk about, staying with San Francisco. Jordan Willis, 27 years old, 26, 27-ish. A little older than Kentavious Street, but they're in that area of still being respectable in the age category. 5 quarterback hits, 3 sacks. San Francisco has a ton of rotation among their defensive line, and they got dudes that can play in that rotation. So I would say that somebody's probably going to end up slipping through the cracks here, and there's going to be, the possibility of bringing those guys in as rotational pieces for your own defensive line. I like Jordan Willis a lot. I think that makes a ton of sense. And I'll just name you 2 more guys who are really bargain bin. These are bargain bin. You're not counting on these dudes to be starters, per se. These are taking a shot at a guy, right? You're taking a shot on a guy who's played in the league and has not had a lot of production coming off of this 2021 season. You're hoping you can get them right. The number 1 guy I'll talk about, once again, we're sticking with Indianapolis, is Isaac Rochelle. I would take a shot there. He's got familiarity with the scheme. He's not going to cost you really anything, and he's probably a guy that you don't mind if Teron Jackson beats out because is like kind of your 4th, 5th option. Not a big deal. The other guy I'll talk about is someone who has a little bit bigger of a name, but he just wasn't very productive last year. Ifeadi Adingbo. I don't know how you say his name, guys. Played for Cleveland. I know you know what I'm talking about because he has a name. He's been talked about before on the channel. I just don't know how to say the young man's name, but from Cleveland, he's the last guy I'll talk about. That's 10 guys in total we've talked about from the pass rushing perspective. I do expect the Eagles to make moves this offseason. Now, I don't know the extent of the moves. I don't know if we can expect to get, Ugba. Who knows? I would love to add him. I think he's clearly an upgrade. I think he's not going to cost you that much money in terms of like what you can get towards the production. And that's the thing, you're doing a cost evaluation. I don't know that Ugba is going to cost you as much as going and getting like Williams to play safety, if you will. You know what I mean? With that said, I do think there's an opportunity to improve and still stay in the draft. Because I got to tell you guys, this draft class, holy crap, it's good. This is an incredible draft class this year for defensive ends. Now, I will warn you before I get into this, guys. Make sure you go back and make sure these young men declared for the draft because the amount of guys I got to break down film on, once I start, guys, I don't have time to pull my head up and look at that stuff. Every now and then I catch the guy and I pull him out of the rotation, but it's hard to keep track with everybody and to see if they've declared or not. So make sure they've declared if you haven't heard the name mentioned yet. That's very important. All right. Number 1, Aiden Hutchinson, Michigan. Aiden Hutchinson has really climbed the board for a couple of reasons. But the biggest reason comes with recency bias. And it's not that he's not a good player because Aiden Hutchinson is very good. He's number 1 on my list, to be honest. He had a dominating performance against Ohio State where he ended up finishing that game with 15 pressures. And that was playing against a pro prospect, guys. And Nicholas, what is that guy's name? Friere? I don't know how you say his name, but the guard from Ohio State who was very much – he's an NFL caliber player. And Aiden Hutchinson took him to school in that game. Aiden Hutchinson is going to be a big name, probably top 3 pick, maybe the number 1 overall pick. We don't know yet, but certainly going to probably go in the top 5 of this draft. The next guy to talk about here is Kayvon Thibodeau. Thibodeau is an athletic freak, guys. Had 46 pressures on the year, finished off with a 91.5, pass rush grade. I don't think he's had the crazy production year that you see from a guy like Hutchinson, but he's been consistent with, showing you that he can be that guy, and he's very athletic. I mean, this is a guy that you're drafting traits along with production, right? It's also about his traits and what he can be at the next level. These are not necessarily in order, guys. Those two guys, I'll tell you right now, are above everybody else. But when you get down to 3, 4, and 5, I think it's very argumentative about how you want to place guys, to be honest. All right, number 3. It's not that I'm saying he's a third guy. It's just third on my list right now. George Karlaftis, defensive end, Purdue. Inside-outside versatility, guys. 275-pounder. It's got all the pass rushing tools. Hard to judge the athleticism. I don't know the extent to the athlete yet. I'm waiting to see how he does at the Senior Bowl and some other things to kind of grade that type of thing. See how he does in his pro day, things like that, to see those lateral movement drills and how he tests. But Karlaftis definitely has the inside-outside versatility. The next guy on here I'll talk about is David Ojabo, defensive end, Michigan. Guys, this is somebody that you got to be careful of, but man, he's the athleticism is there. Ojabo's athleticism is very impressive to see on film. That guy's going to test really well, in my opinion, man. I got a feeling he's going to fly off the charts when it comes to those testing numbers. With that said, I will warn that 89.3 pass rush grade, which is a great grade for the 2021 season. Keep in mind, he only played 26 snaps in the years prior. So there's a lot unknown about Ojabo. I mean, this is a very, very hard evaluation. I'm not going to lie. All right, next guy up on the list I have written down. Doesn't mean I think they're the 5th best prospect, guys. It's not what I'm saying. It's just how I had the film lined up. Is Kingsley Anegbar? I think is how you say his name, something like that. He's the pass rusher from South Carolina. The number one thing you love here is SEC. You know you're playing against quality offensive lines. You know you're playing against NFL-level talent, and you know the guy had production here. And what I will say about Anegbar, I'm just going to call him Kingsley, guys. He's a technician. Very much a technician with really good length. The measurables are going to be impressive. He's going to have that length and the ability to set the edge that other guys they don't have. He had a 92.4 pass rush grade. I think the only person he trailed was Aiden Hutchinson in that pass rush grade. And to be quite honest about him, guys, he's not crazy athletic. I'm not going to fool you and tell you he's a crazy athlete. He's not. But sometimes, man, it's all about your technique. And this guy's very much a good technician. This is a young man I would love to have Jalen Williams and I would love to have Caleb break down film on and tell me what they think about the way he uses his hands and how he gets himself incorporated into the pass rush, because he's pretty impressive to see on film. Number 6 guy I want to take some time to talk about this morning, guys, is Arnold Ebekti, Penn State, defensive end. The Big Ten had a lot of guys this year, man, from both the guys at Michigan. You had Karlaftis at Purdue. You got Ebekti. I mean, they produced some pass rushers this year. There's even the young man that was at Ohio State that he didn't declare for the 22 draft. He returned back to Ohio State, but he probably would have been in the discussion too as a mid-round pick. So, I mean, there's definitely some talent coming out of that area, guys. 52 pressures on the year, had a 90.5 pass rush grade. I mean, Ebekti, I don't know that he was the most impressive guy I watched on the defense from the film, but he's a good football player. Number 7, Jermaine Johnson, Florida State. I'm going to give you a hot take, and you guys know I'm not a hot take guy. I don't like giving hot takes because a lot of times you get proven wrong with hot takes, but I'll give you one because every now and then I think you have to give one. Jermaine Johnson, in my opinion, this is the best edge setter in the entire draft class. I think that Jermaine Johnson doesn't necessarily have all the pass rush tools yet. I still think he's a work in progress in terms of that. But the frame is there. The athleticism is there, and that dude sets the edge unlike anyone else I've watched film on, and I know that is a crazy, crazy thing to insinuate because the guy I'm about to name after him is pretty dang good at setting the edge too. But Jermaine Johnson is climbing boards for a reason, guys. He's really good. This is a guy that if we slid down the draft and, traded back on that 19 pick somewhere into the 20s and they selected Jermaine Johnson, I'm okay with it. I'm definitely okay with it. All right, number 8 guy I want to talk about today is Cameron Thomas, San Diego State University. Big guy, 6'5", 6'4", somewhere in that area, 270, 275-ish. It's going to come out in that kind of range. He led all of FBS football with pressures. He had 72 pressures on the year. Now, I will mind you, when we talk about a couple of guys, I'm giving you a couple small school guys. So Cameron Thomas is a small school guy, and we're going to talk about Alex Wright before I jump off of here. And those are both small school guys. You got to be concerned about the level of competition, guys. I mean, there's no way around that. That's certainly a thing when you're talking about 72 pressures. But you know what? You got to be good to generate the pressure, right? So he dominated the competition that was in front of him. That's what we do know about him, right? Cameron Thomas, 29 run stops. He's very powerful on the edge. He sets the edge. I know that's why I said it's controversial to say what I said about Jermaine Johnson, but I just think Jermaine Johnson, if you look at the film, the fact he played in the ACC, where we know there's NFL talent, I think Jermaine Johnson's really good. I also like Cameron Thomas a lot too, guys. Number 9, Trayvon Walker, defensive end, UGA. Trayvon Walker has elite physical traits, guys. When you talk about being an athlete, you know, guys like 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", 275-ish, somewhere in that area, 270-ish. This dude is so athletic, man, he will drop out into the flats and pass coverage. And he does a good job with his hip placement, guys. He's pretty good, actually. This dude's a crazy athlete, man, Trayvon Walker is. I think this is going to be, when you talk about elite physical traits, I think he's in the conversation with a couple of these dudes in terms of the elite physical traits from the position. Trayvon Walker is still very much developing the pass rush move. You know, I talked about that aspect with Jermaine Johnson, but I think when you're talking about Trayvon Walker, it's even greater. Like, there's still a much larger hurdle to clear there. But if you got a guy you believe in terms of being able to develop this kind of talent, all the traits are there to turn into a special player. Sometimes you got to trust your coaching staff to do what they're paid to do, right? All right. I'm not saying that he's a 10th rated defensive end. It's just the 10th guy I watched film on. Drake Jackson, USC. Drake Jackson, I'm skeptical a little bit, guys. It's nothing personal against Drake Jackson, but when you get a crazy production increase from one year to the other, it might just mean that you've developed and you deserve more credit than you're being given by guys like me. And that's very true. I'm not trying to take shots at this young man. But anytime it's USC and I'm dealing with the Pac-12 and I'm dealing with offensive linemen and defensive linemen, I've been burnt too many times, guys. I've just been burnt way too many times on that. So I always kind of approach it with you got to chill out a little bit, man. You know what I mean? Like, you got to chill out on what your expectations are of these guys. To be fair, in 2020 or 20, I think 2020 is the last year he played besides this year. He went from 66.7 to 87.7 pass rush grade. It's a huge jump. You can say that's progress, Gabe. Don't. What are you nitpicking here? I get it. I don't know, man. There's guys I'd put ahead of him. That's all I'm going to say. Myjai Sanders, Cincinnati. Very much a Cincinnati defensive end, guys. You guys remember like Trent Cole and those dudes that came out of that school? He's like 6'5", 6'4", I think, somewhere in that area, guys. 255, 260 pounds. Really fast off the edge. He's really, really quick off the edge. He's still got some development to go. Sanders, I don't think, is a complete player, you know, but pass rush specialist that can develop into something that's like truly great in the NFL, sure. This is a guy, if you're hanging around the 3rd and 4th round, I don't hate him. I think he's a really good prospect, if I'm being honest. Nick Bonito, Oklahoma. Crazy productive over a couple of years, right? This is one of those guys where you look at and you say, look, it's not a one-year wonder. He's been crazy productive over a couple of years. You're talking about the Big 12 guys, same kind of thing with the judging the Pac-12. But the one positive you can say about the Big 12 is you play a lot of passing offenses. So you know what I mean? Like, getting there and winning those battles does mean something because there's opportunities and there's a lot of film to grade pass rush on. To be honest, you get a ton of film to do it. I'm not too sure about the level of competition he's facing among the offensive lines. All right, the last guy I want to talk about in college. This is a guy crossed my radar last year when I was really kind of digging into the film and starting to get a feel for, you know, players that were a little under the radar. Okay. Milton Williams kind of popped up as I was doing this film work. But this year, Alex Wright, UAB, this dude is a monster. Monster dude, man. 6'7", 270, 275-ish. He's monster. He's a monster out there. He just absolutely beat dudes up. 51 pressures on the year. He was just clearly the most physically gifted guy at times on the field. I don't know that you're going to have the same success story as a guy like Milton Williams coming out year one. I mean, I don't know, but nonetheless, I definitely think that there are times that you have to, you know, you got to count for these guys. You know, you got to mention them. You got to talk about them. This is my talking about Alex Wright. Like, I definitely think that there's going to be some teams that fall in love with the athletic traits of this young man. There's some, like I said, guys, and mind you, I cut it off at 13. I could have kept going. There's more than this in this draft class. This is a really really good draft class at defensive end, if I'm being quite honest about the situation here. All right, y'all, let's get into some comments, guys. Let's talk a little bit. Cree said, good morning, Eagles Nation. I am looking forward to today's video. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that, man. Lit City Lambo, what's good, buddy? He said, fly, Eagles, fly. Jeffrey, what's up, buddy? Good morning. How you guys doing? What's up, Messiah? How you doing, man? Good morning. Good morning. Ewan 609, what's good, buddy? How are you today? What's up, Drew? I'm doing well, sir. I hope you are too. Michael said, I think Barnett tests free agency, doesn't get a max offer in returns for a lower contract. I'm with you on Ugba. He's a beast. Turi from the Colts is good too. I'd add one of those two and draft a defensive end. I like that strategy a lot, Michael, because that's kind of the way I view it too, which is don't just bank on one side or the other in terms of the draft or free. I think you got to combine them. I think pass rush it's entirely too important to play around with. I agree wholeheartedly with that. Anthony said, man, I'm going one step further than you, Gate. They need to bring in 3 defensive ends between free agency and the draft. I hear you, man. Can't play around with pass rush. Just cannot play around with the pass rush. Kreese says, fans keep talking about trading or cutting Cox like there would be cap repercussions. Do you foresee a way to get rid of Cox without incurring a big cap hit? It's not so much that you're going to incur like a huge cap hit per se. It's just that it's the dead money, right? You're going to tie a lot of money up that you can't use for anything else. Like at the end of the day, I don't know that I'd say it's a huge cap hit. It's just a lot of dead money on the contract. We're definitely going to go over contracts, guys. It's coming up. I'll definitely tackle Brandon Brooks and Fletcher Cox. Those are the 2 big names that everyone's talking about, and I'll lay the numbers out before you guys to see what happens, given the circumstances. All right? We'll definitely get into that. Eagle Slayer 95, what's good, buddy? He said, who are 5 draft prospects we should keep our eyes on? I personally like the defensive end from Florida State. I forget his name, though. What's up, Eagle Slayer? Yeah, you're talking about Jermaine Johnson. He's very high on my list, Jermaine Johnson. There's a lot to like about Jermaine Johnson. Trayvon Walker's another guy from UGA. Another guy that's got all the physical tools, just needs to develop. Needs to develop pass rush moves. I'll say that a Nigbar, whatever his name is, from South Carolina, another guy that I'm pretty high on. Karlaftis, if you knew how to use Karlaftis in conjunction with guys like Milton Williams and Brandon Graham, they could be lethal on a D-line because you can play them inside, outside, all 3 of those guys. You just got to trust your coaching staff to be able to use those 3 guys in conjunction and not rob snaps from one another. You know what I mean? It's got to be a situation like that. Abekti is good from Penn State. You know, some of these dudes might slip into the 2nd round, and I think that's where you got to look for your value here. Myjai Sanders, the young man from Cincinnati, he's very typical of a Cincinnati defensive end, guys. He's very, very similar to a Cincinnati defensive end. I like him a lot. You know, you look at a guy like Alex Wright at UAB. I don't know what round valuation they're going to give Alex Wright, but the physical traits are there if you're going to take a chance on developing a guy on the backside of your roster. So, I mean, there's definitely like a ton of guys in this year's draft class that have a ton of potential, Eagle Slayer. And that's not even talking about the dudes we talked about from free agency. Like Rasheem Green is a good player. Torrey from Indianapolis is good. Muhammad's good from Indianapolis. Ugba I think Ugba is just a really good player that's underrated from Miami. So, I mean, there's opportunities to improve this football team from a pass rush perspective. NFC's B said, Ojabo is screaming up boards. Johnson II of Florida State. Yeah, Johnson II starting to climb too. I just saw, I think Mike's video had him like being drafted 19 overall to us. I mean, it's, you know, some of these dudes are, you know, mind you, mock drafts don't mean as valuation of the guy. You know how it works, NFC East Beast. It really doesn't mean anything. And we've already talked about that. Some of these guys are guilty of, you know, getting kickbacks from agents to push the names of guys. But yeah, I definitely think that Ojabo, especially when Ojabo tests NFC East Beast, he's going to definitely be a name to watch. What's up, Cree? He said, are you going to watch the NFL PA Collegiate Bowl on Saturday? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do all that, man. I tend to, like, this time of year, man, I'm so caught up in scouting that I have to spend a lot of my free time just looking over film, guys. It's the amount of guys you have to go through. If you're talking about analyzing 250 guys, you got to think about the time commitment you have to give for that. It's really hard to watch stuff like that. Brooks will speak to the media at 11 a.m. today. Oh, boy. Oof. Let's hope it's not retirement, Miss Hero, but it might be. I mean, hopefully if he retires, he gives us the option to not file the paperwork until June 1st, so that way we don't get hit more than we need to. Because if we file on June 1st, we're still getting back like 13 million towards 22's cap. Chaos the Filthy, what's good, buddy? He said, we need 2 edge rushers, in my opinion. It's time to reset at defensive end. I hear you, man. I hear you. Is there someone coming out of NC State that you see as a fit for the Eagles in this draft that we should look out for? Not that we'll be in position to get. That's the problem, Cree. I don't know we'll be in position to get the big name guy here, which is Akeem Ekwonu, who's a really athletic guard. He gives you a lot of the traits of versatility, right? You can play 4 positions along the offensive line. Crazy athlete. I got a feeling that guy's going to go in the top 12 picks, though. What's up, NFC East? BC said, good morning, Gates Gorillas. Kelly Green, what's good, buddy? He said, we need one of those top edge guys. Seems like the teams with the young studs edges are on top right now. We got to improve this pass rush, Kelly Green. It's got to get better. What's up, DeAndre Richardson? How you doing, buddy? No ID said, let's go, Brandon. DeAndre said, cornerback play helps line play. Fletch and company need that. I 100% agree, man. 100%. They work in conjunction with one another. Big Moose, what's up, buddy? He said, my guy is FSU Jermaine Johnson, straight beast. I like his film a lot too, man. Like I said, I'm not saying that he doesn't have some areas where he needs development, Big Moose. I mean, I don't want to imply that, but his film is quite good already, to be honest. I definitely think that dude is a violent edge setter. What's up, Dante Hill? You know what's crazy about him? Sorry, Dante. What's good, buddy? How are you today? What's crazy about Jermaine Johnson is he was a UGA transfer. Think about how good that UGA defense was. That Jermaine Johnson left that defense to go to Florida State and still end up getting consideration for the first round. That's how crazy stacked that UGA defense was, guys. That's such a crazy thing to think about. Anthony said this defensive end class is super stacked. 100% agree, man. It also fits a need. How he lines them line. Yeah, he does, right? He will absolutely spend resources, draft capital, the whole 9 yards along the lines, both sides of it, right? We're not shy at doing that. Eagle Slayer said, appreciate you. I got a lot of research to do, laugh out loud. Yeah, man, there's a lot of dudes in this draft class that are pretty good. And I had to remove a couple of guys, to be honest. And there's going to be, some of those dudes coming back in 2023. It's going to help because 2023's class will probably be pretty good too. I don't know if it's going to be quite the 22's class in terms of the edge rushers, but it'll still be a decent class. Ojabo starting to sound like a 3 to 4 round pick. Sounds like he needs to do a lot of development. He does, but he's not going to go in the 3rd or 4th round. I doubt it, Dante. I think his value is only going to increase once they test him. I think once they get him on the field and assuming now here's the big thing, Dante. It's a lot of assumption here. Assuming those numbers come out to what the expectations are, I think that dude's going to go crazy. Cree said, wow, Gates, you're evaluating 250 players. Sounds like you need your own war room. Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing a full evaluation like NFL scouts are doing, guys. I can't get access to I can get access to film, but I can't get access to the amount of film that they have. And keep in mind, they got 50 dudes like me. We only know about 5 or 10 of them, but there's literally 50 dudes like me that evaluate for an NFL team. So yeah, it's really difficult to do that. Kelly Green said, how do I get into scouting in my state? The easiest way to get into scouting, guys, is to first get yourself involved into coaching at the high school level. Make connection with the local college programs. As you make connections with those college programs, they may start working with you. Each college has a regional scout. That regional scout may get in contact with you to basically help them scout their region. That's the easiest way of getting involved, Kelly Green, to be honest. Rock the Artist. What's good, buddy? How you doing, man? He said, GM Gate City. Rock said, first round, what do you think we need? Edge rusher, safety, linebacker, cornerback? I think we got to see how everything kind of plays out in terms of free agency. But what I will say is that it depends on where guys fall down your board, right? Where dudes falling on your board. But I think that the depth of edge rusher is far deeper than, say, safety. Safety, I'm not saying safety doesn't have guys out there that you can get past the first round. You can. And I think linebackers got some respectability into the first 3 rounds as well. I definitely think you can pluck a guy in the third round at linebacker, and that dude can turn out to be really good. Muma from Wyoming. If that dude's a third round pick, somebody's getting a steal, to be honest. But I definitely think that if you got an opportunity to get a cornerback or a safety, there's only really one safety early in the draft you can go for. There's a few corners. I think corner will probably be where they might look to. But, you know, it's the Eagles. We know that if they got a high grade on Karlaftis and he slides, they're going to take him. I mean, come on, we know it, guys. We know dang right well they'll do that. Blaze Tally said, hello, what's up, man? How you doing, buddy? Dante said, can't wait until my book comes. By the way, you know Gates has a book out. Yeah, it's just a little guide, guys. It's to help you guys take notes on quarterback stuff like that. I put a couple little, you know, I did them. There's a general NFL one that I linked. I'll start linking the Eagles one as well. The Eagles one has a few, you know, 5 or 6 pages where I did some trivia stuff for the Eagles, kind of gave you guys a little insight to Eagles history. But I'm also working on, I'm not going to call it bathroom humor. It's not really bathroom humor, but I'm working on like a book about the Eagles where it's going to be like, you know, 1,000 facts. I'm making up a number in the air here, guys, like 1,000 facts about the Eagles. So that's going to be like kind of my next project. It's going to be related specifically to Philly in terms of publishing. So I'm already working on that side of things, guys. But I got to slow down the production of the book stuff because I got to swing into evaluating players. I hear you, Anthony. He says, I want a nasty, you know, line, defensive end, a nose. Yeah, I hear you, man. You want that New Orleans and San Francisco type of line where they beat up on teams. I hear you. I think everyone does, man. Big Moose said, would it be a reach to take Jermaine Johnson at 15 or 16? So, I mean, like, reach is in the eye of the beholder, right? Right, Big Moose? I mean, right now, I think most people would say it's a reach. But come April, who knows? That might be exactly where you got to take a guy like Jermaine Johnson. Dudes are, you know how it works, Big Moose. Dudes are going to rise up the board. Dudes are going to fall down the board once these testing numbers start coming in. Once we see these dudes at the Senior Bowl, some of these guys that'll be at the Senior, not all of them will, but some of these guys that'll be at the Senior Bowl that's lining up against other NFL competition, and they start dominating, you know there's going to be a meteor, you know, a crazy rise in what they are as players, prospects. So you always got to watch that, man. Big Moose said, sign Riddick in free agency, please. What's up, Bobby Murphy? How you doing, buddy? He said a dominant D-line also helps a secondary, too. We won a Super Bowl with Mills and Darby at cornerback. Yeah, they play off of each other. It's very true. They run off of each other. Like, they kind of work in conjunction with one another. Big Moose said Ojabo is too raw and is iffy in the run game. I'm good. That won't somebody with tons of experience there. You want somebody with tons of experience? Yeah, the big risk with Ojabo is the fact that he doesn't have a ton of college snaps, you know, past this year. This year he played a lot and he was crazy productive. Like, Ojabo went off beside Aiden Hutchinson on the other side. Not beside him, but on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson. But you're right. I mean, prior to the season, if I remember the numbers correctly, it was only 26 snaps. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know where he's at, guys. I have no clue. NFC East B said, who do you think will be available at 51? Leal, Bonito, Walker, Sanders. At 51, tough to say. I can't say for sure. I do feel like Leal's going to go in the first round, man. I hate to say it, NFC East Beast, because I'd love to get him at 51. Are you kidding me? Like, that dude is, yeah, like our interior defensive line rotation would be ridiculous. But I think he's going first round, to be honest. Benito, I think, will definitely be there probably around 51. But, you know, I'll say this. There were guys that moved up into the first round last year that I wouldn't have thought were first round picks. But that's, you know, teams value edge rushers, so you got to be careful with saying that. Walker, I don't know, guys. Trayvon Walker's athletic profile is so good that he might not be there at 51. If he's there at 51, NFC East Beast, they need to run to the podium. You run to the podium on Trayvon Walker at 51. Sanders probably far more likely. Majai Sanders is probably far more likely at 51. I would even argue that Majai Sanders, depending on where you're picking in the third round, if you can get leverage to get up earlier in the third round, you might be able to get Majai Sanders in the third round, potentially. Cree said, Rock the Artist, man. I love your content. Yeah, guys, check out Rock the Artist. If you haven't checked out Rock the Artist, he's a content creator, man. He does a lot of unique stuff, man. I like to watch him too. You know, sometimes I just get lazy. I sit on the couch and I watch Rock the Artist and LB and Mike and all those dudes. Cree, he said, "What up, man?" And thank you. Francis, what's good, buddy? How you doing, man? He said we should go heavy on the most versatile players that can play multi positions. Yeah, I mean, I just hope that the coaching staff will use them correctly, and that's something I can't project. But when you talk about a guy like Karlaftis, that I think that's the appeal to Karlaftis, right? Is the fact that there is inside-outside versatility there. Alex Wright's a guy that probably could give you some pretty unique things you could do with him, to be honest. And he's going to be a later guy. I look at Trayvon Walker with the crazy athletic profile and Jermaine Johnson. And, I definitely think there are guys in this draft class that can improve your pass rush. I think we could be a lot better, man. Gate City, good morning. Got you, bro. He said, "Would you grab a wide receiver at free agency and then the draft, or who would you get?" I would shore that up in free agency if I could, Rock the Artist. I mean, look, I can't assume who will or won't be available for us in free agency. I mean, that's always kind of the trick. You know what I mean? Like, who knows who's going to be there? Mike Williams makes a ton of sense to me, fits a position of need. If I can get my hands on Allen Robinson, I would definitely try to get Allen Robinson. I think Allen Robinson's I think he's a top line talent for the Eagles, man. I mean, I think he's a dude that's being underrated and undervalued because of the way things shook out in Chicago. But I definitely think that's a dude that can play. You just got to keep him on the field. Outside of Allen Robinson, DJ Shark coming back from a broke ankle. This is a guy back in 2018. The Philadelphia Eagles had a ton of interest in. There's trade avenues we could seek trade avenues. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of ways of getting what you want here, but I definitely think that I would try to improve it if I could inside of free agency first. And there's also some dudes that are coming off the Colts team that don't get talked about a lot. There's the I can't think of his name, man. He's a really big guy. He played for the Colts last year. He came out of ODU. He was there like a season or two at ODU. With the young man that we cut on our team, the guy that came in last year had a crazy 3 or 4 games, and then they took him out of the games. Fulgham, he was there with Travis Fulgham. So I mean, there's definitely some guys that you can get in free agency that have some utility, but I don't know if they're going to go. And you always got to save yourself here. Post June 1st saves us $13.5 million with a cap hit of $5.9 million. Yeah, I mean that's what you're hoping for. You would hope that if he does retire, if at 11 a.m. today we learn that he's retiring, and I don't want look, man, much respect to Brandon Graham. He was one of my favorite players on this team for quite a long time. I respected the crap out of everything he's done, and it's just the end of his career. I feel bad, man. But at the same time, he just hasn't been in games the last couple of years. I really wish it could have gone differently. I hope he's coming back. I do. But we got to find a way of finagling money. Let's be honest, Interior. They need to finagle some money here because we got a lot of opportunity here to get advance this roster and make it better. Cree said, "Gate, has there ever been someone on video that you evaluated with a lower rating, and when he made the NFL, blew your socks off, really impressed me?" Yeah, there's definitely been some guys where, I didn't think that their college film was that impressive, but once they got to the league, they were a lot better than what was anticipated. I'll say that, on the Eagles in particular, I'm trying to think who really surprised me in terms of the Eagles, in terms of how well they could play. I'll say Teron Jackson. So Teron Jackson, I had a really high grade on him, and I was a lot higher on Teron Jackson than a lot of people were. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I thought Teron Jackson would be as good his rookie year as he's been this season. I just thought that was a guy that would be probably have a shot at making our roster and be kept on the back end of it. I didn't predict that not only would he make our roster, but he would actually turn into actually being productive and actually being useful in season. And you have to consider him as being a third or fourth rotational guy the following year. I didn't see that for coming, Cree. I mean, he was a little better than what I thought. Francis said, "Thanks, Gate City." Yeah, no problem, guys. Ted said, "Good morning, Coach. Off subject. Are you concerned that Howie won't use all first-round picks? It's a lot of money down the road." He probably won't use all of them. I do. Look, I'm not going to say that he 100% won't use them all. We have the picks. We own the picks. At some point in time, you're going to use the picks. You know what I mean? But I don't know that all 3 picks are going to come in inside of 2021 or 2022's draft. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I think it's a fair point, Ted. I definitely think that there's an element of truth to that, to where, yeah, that's it's very true. Big Moose said currently we were at 14 million according to Over the Cap, and we have a rollover from 2020. No, 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 that rollover is already there, man. No, that's not the way it works, Big Moose. The rollover's already in there. So if you go to their cap schedules and you look down at their salary schedule, if you look at that scheduling, you'll see that they've already accounted for the actual rollover. So that 14 million is with the money that got rolled over already. And then, I hate to be negative here, Big Moose, but you also got to factor in that 14 million is not accounting for what you have to pay your rookie salary pool. So you got to subtract those rookie contracts from that 14 million. But we'll create enough space, guys. Space isn't going to be the issue. At one point, we were over 90 million over the cap last year. Like, being in a situation where you're probably clearly below 10 million in cap space right now when you take in everything, because those rookie salary pools, it's going to pull you under 10 million. We'll create more than enough space. That's not going to be an issue this year. Waylon said, still plug up holes drafting offensive guard in draft. I don't know how high they're going to do it. I mean, look, they value offensive linemen, Waylon. So, I mean, I would never bet against that per se. Like, I mean, we know that this organization in general just has a fascination with improving the offensive line. And, that's always something that has to be in consideration with the Eagles. Like, there's always a very good possibility that they're going to spend more draft capital than anyone anticipates along the offensive line. Let's be real. I didn't see Landon Dickerson pick coming in the second round last year. I mean, maybe other guys had insight and had maybe they had somebody that plugged them into that, and they knew the Dickerson pick was coming. I certainly knew that at any point they could go off the rails and they can go where we didn't expect them and take an offensive lineman, but I didn't see the Dickerson pick coming, guys. That one definitely shocked me, and it was a really good pick, to be fair. I mean, that was a crazy good pick by Howie. So, yeah, I mean, hard to say, man. Crease at Gates, are you referring to Zach Pascal? Yeah, it's exactly what I'm talking about, out of ODU. Yeah, so he played like a year or two with Travis Fulgham actually at ODU before he came into the league. He's a big body guy. He's not an elite guy. This is not someone's going to cost you a ton of money. If his time is over with the Colts, he knows the system. He's got the size you're looking for. He's been decent at times at yak, yards after the catch. So, I mean, yeah, I definitely think that there's an element there that makes some sense, right? I mean, definitely so. Big Moose said I would get an edge rusher, a safety, and a wide receiver in free agency. I definitely think that there's a need to get several things within free agency. Like, I definitely think this team, it needs to consider all avenues and in all aspects of getting stuff, guys. I mean, no doubt about it. Like, we definitely need to plug up some holes on this team. I mean, the one thing I'll say without hesitation, guys, is that what I learned personally from the way the playoffs shook out is that the overall talent level of this team has to be increased. I think if you get behind some of the film, you guys saw last night, we spent a lot of time. Thanks so much to Caleb. Thank Jalen Williams so much for what they did. The offensive line, the talent's there. We can see we got one of the best lines in the league. You could see them pushing back. I mean, Vita Vea got beat up by Dickerson a few times. And Vita Vea that's a good football player, guys. With that said, the rest of the team I don't feel like is there. I don't feel like the rest of the team, the talent level, is the top 6 to 8 teams in the league. There's definitely kind of a cutoff to where you got these 6 to 8 teams, and there's just kind of everybody else. And I definitely think that we've got a lot of work to do to get in that discussion. And I do think that today's topic has a lot to do with that, which is defensive line. I think at one point in time, both sides of the ball, and I don't think our defensive line was bad, but I definitely think if you look at teams like San Francisco and New Orleans, you can see the difference in defensive line play. We need to get there, man. We got it in spurts. If we can keep double teams off of Javon Hargrave, that dude's going to eat. We've got to figure out a way of keeping double teams off of that young man. Fletch, I don't know what's going on. I still think Fletch is a good player, but I'm a little disappointed he didn't win as many one-on-one matchups anymore. I mean, he seems to have fallen off a little bit in that regard, but yeah, I mean, definitely, and I definitely think we need a safety. I just don't know, the problem is outside of Reed, who I don't think his coverage numbers are as good as people think. I think when people actually see his coverage numbers, they're going to be like, wow, like, it's not as good as I thought it was going to be, Steve. But the athleticism is there, right? A young guy that's 4.4 speed. You pair that guy with Marcus Epps, you got a ton of athleticism on the field at safety. Williams from New Orleans is a straight stud. That's a dude that if you can make the money work, that dude drastically improves your football team. But outside of those two guys, I don't really know where you go, because I think you get really in argumentative territory to where you can make an argument that, to be real with you, Al Harris and Roddy McLeod, although they're older, are just as good as some of those other names out there when you really look behind the numbers on some of these dudes. What's up, 2020? How you doing, buddy? Glad you made it, man. What's up, iShine? How are you, sir? 2020 said, is Karlaftis too heavy at 275 for a pass rusher? A few years in the league, he could blow up to 300 pounds. I don't think he's going to get up that high, man, just because, honestly, normally when you're in the league, you kind of lose weight throughout the season. To be honest, 2020, it's really hard to keep weight on like that. Just the pure amount of energy it takes to play the game. With that said, I don't think so, man. I think he's very much a technician. That's pretty much what Vinny Curry and a lot of dudes, play at that 275 to 285 mark on the edges. I think he's going to be fine, man. I mean, I think you can play him as a 5 tech in the 34 front. I think you can play him as a 5 tech in a 43 front. I think you can play both. NFC East B said, there is water cooler talk to the Eagles moving back to early second round for a team to move up for a tackle coming from retired Redskin. I mean, look, it's possible. I wouldn't fault the Eagles for doing that, because I do think that the depth of this draft is pretty good. And if you can keep collecting picks, either in this draft or in 2023s, I think you do that. I really do. I think you do that, guys, because if you can get a team to bite and really move up this board for trying to take positions that you don't need a lot for, and let's be real, if you're going to move up the draft, there's really only 3 positions I think you normally see it happen. I'm not going to say that it doesn't happen at other positions, because it does, but the common positions where we see this type of behavior come from teams has to do with quarterback, number 1, clearly. Number 2 is an offensive lineman, generally speaking, a tackle. And then number 3 would be your pass rushers. Those are the 3 positions you normally see teams kind of vie for position to get guys. Now, I mean, we'll have to judge the interest, NFC East Beast. I have no clue what the interest is from other, other organizations. It's so hard to say, guys. Matt Hatter said DJ Shark is a free agent receiver, 6'4", and 1,000-yard receiver. He's been that in his past. I agree. Sorry, guys. I was grabbing coffee. My voice is getting a little harsh here. He's definitely been that in the past, Matt Hatter. I like DJ Shark. The Eagles had interest in the 2018 draft in DJ Shark, but he is coming off a broke ankle, and we got to see where he's at in terms of that. Cree said, love the insight provided in last night's video. Thanks to you and the other 2. Yeah, I got it. That was all Caleb. That was all Caleb Brennan, and that was all Jalen Williams. Those 2 guys are former collegiate offensive linemen. Caleb played center. Jalen Williams played left guard. Those guys, they understand offensive line play at a level that I don't even understand it, guys, to be honest. That's why I brought them onto the show, because they give me a lot of insight when I break down offensive line and defensive lines. Those 2 guys they're very, very good resources to have. And I wanted to make sure that they got a chance and an opportunity to really help, bring forth value to the channel. And I really look forward to having those guys back for a lot of shows, because they're so good at what they do, guys. They really are. It's of great benefit just to be able to talk to guys like that, let alone have them come onto the channel and contribute like that. So, I mean, I'm really grateful to those 2 guys. I really am. 2020 said, who do you take from Karlaftis, Ojabo, or Abekti? Karlaftis is the most known commodity amongst that group. I think Abekti has his upside. I do. I think Ojabo has the most upside of those 3 guys. Who I take has to do with where they are in the draft. You know what I mean? iShine said an edge, a linebacker, and a defensive back, period. Then an O lineman, then possibly a big body wide receiver somewhere, in the mid rounds, basically. Rest of the picks on the defensive side also get a vet proven big wide receiver in free agency. Jesse Bates is available too. iShine, what about something like a contact balance back? Because I do think that should be kind of part of the discussion too, that this team could still, I know we got 101 running backs. I get it. But I still think that we don't necessarily have that bell cow yet at running back that we're looking for. 2020 said, honestly, Gates, against Tampa in a lot of games, Fletch has become an average NFL starter. It's a bit of a harsh reality. I agree, man, and I do think that there's an element of truth to that. I still think Fletch can play. I'm not saying that he's not a good player, but I do think the days where we knew that Fletch could completely take over a game, I wonder if it's still there. Now, here's the thing, 2020, and you really never know this until the offseason and guys talk. I don't know if he was dealing with an injury maybe throughout the year, and maybe that took away from his production. Who knows? I can't say for sure, you know what I mean? But it bothered me because he said that this is the healthiest he's ever been going into the postseason. You know, he made all those comments which would allude to the fact that what I said earlier is probably incorrect, that he probably wasn't injured. He probably wasn't dealing with some kind of nagging injury that might have taken off his production. I don't know, man. I still like Fletch a lot, man. I respect Fletch for having the respect of the locker room. When this team needed to speak up about the system, the scheme, they turned to Fletch to speak up on their behalf, right? And I do think that matters. That when the chips were down and they needed someone to be an ambassador for the team to the coaching staff, it was Fletch. You know what I mean? And I definitely think that matters. I definitely do. Dante said, "Is Karloftis really worth the hype?" Depends on exactly what they're saying when we say hype. I think Karloftis is a good player. I think that he's very much a technician. I definitely think he understands hand placement and he beats dudes. Karloftis has been very productive, guys. I mean, he gives you inside and outside versatility. It's about how you use him in your scheme. Is he a crazy athlete? Probably not. I wouldn't call him a crazy athlete. Birdgang 114, what's up, buddy? He said, I hope we get the edge rusher from the Chargers, Nwosu. I also hope we get the safety from the Bengals, Jesse Bates, then draft guard Kenyon Green, receiver Alev. Sorry, guys. To be fair, this is the third freaking live stream I've done in 24 hours. Alave, there we go. And the linebacker, Nakobe Dean. I don't know if Nakobe Dean, hopefully Nakobe Dean would make it to 15. I don't know that he will. Devin Lloyd might be the guy that would be there if you're going to go that high in the draft, Bergang. But, it's just so hard. Like when someone says Gate, it's not going to happen. It's like hard to argue against that standpoint because it's been since 79 since we took a linebacker in the first round. So it's like really hard to push back against that viewpoint. You know what I mean? I'm just doing the best I can to say I like these dudes. I'll celebrate the pick if it happens. But I also understand that there is good value in the second, third round for linebackers. Matt Hatter said, do you really think we need to draft an offensive line with all the young talent we have? I think you always add to the offensive line personally, Matt Hatter. But, you can make an argument both ways, I think. What's up, Stephen Price? I'm sorry, buddy. Somehow I skipped your comment because the chat thing moved down. He said, hey, bud, good to see you. Love these talks. What do you think about Treylon Burks, wide receiver from Arkansas? At first, here's the crazy thing, Stephen. At first, I was disappointed because I thought he was going to be like this crazy contested catch guy. So, I went into the film study with this preconceived notion that, I was going to watch this dude just beasting up on dudes in the red zone, snatching balls away. And, there's parts of that on his film, but not to what people think. It's not really his game, per se. What I came away impressed with is this dude's like 6'2", 6'3", 225. And the guy is incredible after the catch. He is such a good yak receiver, yards after the catch guy. Really, really fluid hips, man. He sinks really well at the top of route stems. For a dude that size, you don't see it, Steven. It's really rare. It's really rare for a guy that size to have that kind of hip fluidity. Fluidity, I should say. Sorry. I like him a lot, man. I'm a fan. I'm definitely a fan of him. Now, do I think the Eagles will have interest? I don't know, to be fair, Steven. I have no clue what the perceived interest is in him, but personally, I like the player. What's up, Colin? How you doing, buddy? He said, how deep do you think this wide receiver class is? Just wondering if we can get a big body receiver in the later rounds. Definitely, I don't know that they're necessarily layups to, obviously when you get into later rounds, of course, none of those guys are perceived layups, Colin, but definitely there's a few guys. There's the young man that's Romney that's coming out of BYU, who I think helped Zach Wilson along a lot at BYU the year prior. I think he's a better prospect and a better player than people realize. I think he's a pretty good football player. There is the other young man that played with crap. I'm losing. Who was it? I can't think of the dude's name. Crap. There's another young man that there's another guy I had in mind, Colin. Names are slipping me right now because I'm focused on defensive ends. But yeah, there's the young man out of NC State. I know I keep plugging NC State guys, but it does fit in the conversation we're talking about. NC State has a really good prospect coming out at the wide receiver position for mid rounds. Big, strong, physical guy that can play. I mean, Kelvin Harmon was an NC State guy that ended up in Washington. And to be honest with you, the young man that's coming out from NC State this year is better than what Kelvin Harmon was. So, I mean, he's a guy that if you get there, maybe back into your roster, special team contributor, and a guy that can maybe give you some reps on the outside in terms of a boundary side split in X receiver, he probably can give you those reps. Rub me one more. What's up, buddy? He said, if we could get Devin Lloyd and Jermaine Johnson, Trent McDuffie, we would be satisfied. I mean, yeah, definitely. I like a lot of people, man. I Shine 101 said, I would love Javonte Williams in a perfect world. Laugh out loud. Oh, he's a good player, I Shine. I hate UNC guys, man. I so hate UNC guys. I Shine. I do, but I got to admit, man, he was really good. He was a really good player. When he came out last year, I believe it was Javonte Williams. When he came out last year, I was pretty high on him. And I had to, say, like, anytime you see me talking highly of a UNC guy, you should take notice, guys. That's my arch enemy. Natiro said, could Cox's worst play be related to Gannon's scheme? To an extent, yes. Natiro, to an extent, sure. 2020 said, if Treylon Burks is on the board, Eagles have to take him. This dude put numbers against Alabama and everyone. He's a wide receiver one impact player. Yeah, I mean, you know how it is 2020. I try not to predict at this point just because got to see free agency, got to see what they do in free agency. I mean, I think the moves they make in free agency will tell you a lot about what they think about the draft class in certain areas. You know what I mean? 2020. I think that's very true, but hard to project any of that stuff right now. Brandon Brooks reworked his deal, which will save us $12.38 million. That's what I was alluding to earlier in Natiro, that they could file his deal after June 1st and then save yourself the money as long as the paperwork goes on prior to June 1st, even if he retires. Or as he had a ton of base salary. So if you take the base and you convert it into bonus money, you're kicking the can down the road and you're restructuring the contract. But that's a lot of what we do here. Superhero 18, what's up, buddy? As Natiro said, Brooks just reworked his deal, kind of literally giving up almost all of the money except $1 million. One last solid by Brooks. I want to clarify one thing, Superhero. He didn't give up any money. Normally that stuff is, so when you rework your deal, normally you're converting base salary into bonus money. You still get the money. It's just that you allow the organization to split it up prorated over X amount of years against the cap. But clearly, Superhero, he didn't have to do that. And he did that because of the respect he has for the Eagles, which is greatly appreciated, right? Takeem, what's good, buddy? I love this name. Thank you, Takeem. Yes. Yes, sir. Zonovan Knight, NC State running back, round 5. Love him, bro. Zonovan Knight is a good player for NC State, man. A little worried about he gets the little bit of nagging injury history, though, too, Takeem, to be honest. But, man, he's a good football player. He's a really good football player. And if he's there in round 5 and the Eagles are picking, and there's a very good possibility it's exactly about where he would go. I love that name drop, man. You know I'm in favor of that. Superhero 18, so I wonder, how does the added space potentially change things? I know you said the other day that the Eagles needed to prioritize where that money goes. Yeah, I mean, look, you're adding $12 million at this point, because basically what I would assume to happen, guys, I mean, I'm talking on the air, so mind you, I don't have the opportunity to look through the contract right this second. What I would assume happened is that they took him down to the base salary for the league year. So they took him down to his veteran minimal in terms of his base salary, and they converted the rest of that money into some kind of a bonus, whether it's an option bonus, whatever it is, signing bonus, whatever, and then prorated it over X amount of years, thus giving them $12 million towards the cap in 2022. Who knows, man? That could be a receiver. That could be a safety. That could be a defensive end. Could be a corner. It could be their own guys. It could be signing back guys, their own dudes. Hard to say, man. What's up, Takeem? Did you speak on Majai? I did. I talked about he's the prototypical Cincinnati defensive end, right? Trent Cole and those guys. 6'4", 6'3", 255 pounds, really, really good off the edge, really fast release off the edge. I still think he's got some development to go, to be honest, Hakeem, but like if he's there in like the 3rd round, I think he's a really good football player, to be honest. I wouldn't mind taking that pick. Dante said, I'll be disappointed if we don't use all 3 first-round picks or use 2 first rounds and get another first round next year. Anything less would be a bummer. We have a very unique opportunity. I definitely think you're going to see them use 2. I think the question is how do they maneuver the board? So do they take 2 first-round picks and move up into the top 10 and go target a player? Or do they take one of those picks and leverage it against 2023 to gain an extra first-round pick? The problem with making these projections, Dante, is you know and I know, it takes 2 to tango. You know what I mean? Like I can't predict which other teams are going to want to move up in this draft for whatever player. I can tell you this, guys. None of these dudes, I would say, like here's the crazy thing. Like I agree that none of these guys are first-round picks at cornerback. But at the same time, I disagree because a first-round evaluation is a first-round evaluation, right? I mean, it is what it is. I can tell you one of these dudes is likely getting picked in the top 12. Maybe 2 of these guys are going in the top 12. I'm telling you, if a team falls in love with Kenny Pickett, despite the hand measurement, they're going to sign him. They're going to draft him. I'll tell you, there are going to be teams that are going to go back and look at the film of Matt Corral, and they're going to fall in love with Matt Corral's athleticism. He does have a good arm. There's no doubt about it. He's very mobile. He gives you the ability to play on and off schedule if you can get that young man up to speed. He played in the SEC, I believe. So, I mean, he's played against NFL defenses. I would be careful, where the board could absolutely get slid down to us. Those 2 quarterbacks could potentially go in the top 12 picks. Malik Willis might be another guy where teams just they don't love the fact that he's not very nuanced in terms of the competition he's played. He's not coming from a very pro-ready system, and there's a lot of work to be done. But there's some things you just can't teach a guy. You can't teach a guy that size and that athletic ability. So, I mean, I do think those 3 guys in particular we got to be careful of because those dudes might get drafted a lot higher than people think. NFC East B said, if the Eagles trade 15 or 16 and both Stingley and Hamilton or Gardner and Hamilton are available, who would you draft? Oh boy. Oh, man. I'm going to go Hamilton because I think Hamilton is the most impactful player of the 2 guys you named. I'm going to tell you right now, I walk away with, well, see, here's the thing. You said Stingley. Stingley and Hamilton becomes a much more intriguing conversation. If I had to take a bet on it, the Eagles are taking Stingley. Now, if I think it was between Gardner and Hamilton, I think they were going to take Hamilton. But those 3 dudes are good, NFC East Beast. All 3 of those dudes can play. We walk away with any of those 3 guys, I'm going to be real happy about this draft. Yeah, I see what you're saying, NFC East Beast says. She's like, yo, just for clarification here, I don't expect any of these guys to be there, but teams draft stupidly. I agree. Like I just said, those quarterbacks, look, come at me, guys. Listen, I give you full permission to come at me if one of them doesn't go in the top 12 and say, Gate, you were wrong. The NFL didn't fall for it. They didn't take any of these dudes in the top 12. I feel like there's almost a guarantee one of them is going top 12. And I think there's a real potential possibility that 2 of them are going in the top 12. And furthermore, I think there's a real possibility that 3 of them are going in the top 20. You can come after me, guys. I know that's a hot take. You guys know I hate hot takes. I'm not a fan of them. Come at me if I'm wrong, guys. You got every right to come at me if I'm wrong. But I feel like it's likely to happen, guys. I definitely feel like that's likely to happen, man. Chris said, what's up, Gate? I still look for clarification on Brandon Brooks' retirement and how it affects our cap. Yeah, I got you guys. I'm still going to make a video about it. You're saying it kills put cap. Others are saying it would free up. No. Not kills it. No. So, Chris, that's not what I'm saying at all. If he just outright retired and filed his paperwork before June 1st, we would have to eat the dead money. Now, the dead money doesn't necessarily kill your cap because so the way the dead money works is that the dead money is money you still owe in the contract, okay? So as long as your cap number for that season is higher than the dead money that's left onto the contract, you get what I'm saying? You still are going to be just fine. You're still going to have a cap savings. It's just that you're still, you still lose part of that money though too. So like your cap savings would have been a lot higher if you didn't have the dead money on the contract. So both of those realities can still exist, Chris. But what he did was he basically took his contract. This was something I brought up a couple weeks ago that could happen. He could restructure his contract. I told everybody that, which is you take your base salary, you take it down to what pretty close to what the league minimum is for a player at your position and your age group, right? Because the CBA, the new CBA collective bargaining agreement, kind of changed the parameters on that. So you can only negotiate it down to that point, and then you take that money that was left in the signing, or I'm sorry, that was left in your base salary, and you convert that into a signing bonus or an option-based bonus, some kind of option-based money, and then the player receives that money. If it's an option-based money, he gets the money when he meets the parameters of the option. If it's a signing bonus, he gets the money immediately, and then the Eagles get to split that money up over X amount of years. But I'll make a video where I can just physically show you the numbers and make it easier to see. What's up, Red Eagle? He said Khair Elam is one of the only quarterbacks that shut down Devontae Smith, so I would keep my eye on him. I like him a lot, man. Elam. I like Elam a lot because I think Elam is very aggressive in coverage. He would be really interesting in the too high safety look, so where he can really play really, really aggressively. Because I definitely feel like that guy would. I got a feeling like he would rob people at the line of scrimmage. I actually like him a lot. Takeem said Eagles need to secure Devin Lloyd before trading away a pick. Dante said, Red Eagle, Elam is my guy. NFC East B says, I was doing trees and shrubs yesterday and left a mess. It's fitting to be cold today. Looks like the yard is going to look like crap for a while. I mean, look, at the end of the day, man, you're still pretty close to the ocean, my guy. You got the advantage where we don't get, man. You don't get a whole lot of those cold days, sir. I look out my window and I see a bunch of hills, man. Takeem said, I'm taking Chris Olave over Treylon Burks, in my opinion. That's a bit of a hot take. I think they're both good players, man. I'm gonna reserve my judgment, Takeem, until I can get into deeper analysis on both players. 2020 said, I would draft Burks if he's still on the board and get free agent Mike Williams or Allen Robinson to really upgrade the wide receiver room. Two big wide receivers like Goddard. With Goddard, basically, Hurts doesn't need to hesitate. Just chunk it up. Colin, what's up, buddy? He said, sorry, just saw you were talking about edge rushers. The NC State wide receiver you were referring to. Yeah, Emeka Emezi. Yeah, On the topic of edge rushers, how do you feel about Trayvon Walker? So I talked about him a little earlier, Colin. I love the athleticism of Trayvon Walker. Trayvon Walker is one of these guys I think still needs to develop, but he has all the physical traits. He absolutely has everything you look for. And the guy is so athletic that you'll see him drop into the flats in coverage and do a heck of a job at doing it, Colin. Early second, potentially could slide into the end of the first round. That's honestly what I think he is. If you're sitting there at 51 and Trayvon Walker is still on the board, you run to the podium. You don't walk to the podium. You run to the podium because that's a very high-level talent at 51. Now, am I projecting these guys are going to make it in the NFL? No. I mean, there's never 100% guarantee for any player, guys. But I'm basing it upon traits that I'm seeing on film. I think the traits are there for a guy like that. Brandon Brooks is supposed to speak to Philadelphia media today at 11 a.m. Retiring, perhaps? No, he just restructured his contract. I mean, he might. Aishan, it's very possible that he restructured the contract to retire, so that way it doesn't hit us as hard. Absolutely possible that's what's going on, guys. Like I said, I can't talk crap about Brandon Brooks. I just wish that he stayed on the field the last 2 years. The guy was one of my favorite players for a while. There's still a part of me that really wishes we had a healthy Brandon Brooks to have Kelsey at center, Leonard Dickerson at left guard, Mulata at left tackle. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Lane Johnson at right tackle. And then Jack Driscoll is your sixth guy off the bench. Do you know how good our offensive line would be if you could keep those dudes healthy? Like, we would maul people. It would be the most amazing thing to watch on film. I don't think it's going to happen. I hope it does. I hope you get an opportunity for Brandon Brooks to come back, but I can't predict it will, Aishan. You know what I mean? Pickett's hands are only slightly smaller than Burrow's. Yeah, Chris, I'm not saying that listen, I'm not saying I personally buy into the argument. I would be a hypocrite, guys. I'm not a big hand guy and I play quarterback. What I'm saying is that weird scouts. No, that's not fair. That's not fair. Let me not say that way. That's a really bad way of phrasing it, guys. Give me a second. Scouts have a weird tendency sometimes to overvalue weird physical traits, such as hand size. The theory is that when you're in inclement weather games, your hand size can affect your ability to grip it and rip it. I will say that they played in a horrible weather game in Pittsburgh, to where Hallie went to that game and it was Kenny Pickett and it was Sam Howell. And to be honest with you, Pickett played lights out, and he was pretty good in an inclement weather game. Now, I don't know how that would affect him in the snow and in the cold. Hard to say, guys. I can't say. 2020 said 53 people in here and only 31 likes. Hit that button and subscribe. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. NFC's B said 2 or 3 quarterbacks before we pick at 19. Not necessarily 3. I definitely think there's a pot. I think one is, I would, like I said, NFC's Beast, you have all the permission in the world for me to come at me if I'm wrong. I definitely think one's going before we pick. At 15, I'll say. I think there's a really good possibility that one goes. I think there's a really, really good possibility, and not saying it's a guarantee. I think the one, I'm borderline walking a guarantee here. But I think there's a really good possibility that 2 are off the board by the time we pick at 15. I think that there's a really good possibility if someone falls in love with Malik Willis at this point, we could trade out a 19 back into later in the first or even back into the early second, acquire a pick from 2020, add a pick for 23's draft. And there might be three quarterbacks off the board by the 20th pick. I'm not guaranteeing it per se, NFC's Beast, and I give you guys permission to come at me if I'm wrong. You guys know I'm not normally a hot take guy. I don't like hot takes. But I don't know, man. It's just gut instinct, if you will. It's gut instinct here. Takeem says, agreed. Kenny Pickett isn't making it out of the top 12. Matt Corral and Kenny Pickett will go New York Giants and Panthers, Broncos, Washington football team, or Vikings in the top 12. That's what my thoughts are too, Takeem. That's what my thoughts are. And like I said, if I'm wrong, come give it to me, guys, because I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Come at me, man. Pickett hands are 8 1/4 inches. Ooh. Mad Hatter, if his hand size comes in at 8 1/4, that ain't good, Mad Hatter. That ain't good. I hope that's not correct. I hope that someone made an assumption and put it out there on the internet, because 10-inch hands are like where people want your quarterback to be. You want 10 inches or so. A 9-inch hand is already drastically smaller than the league average. Oof, 8 1/4 would be very problematic for an NFL pro. Eyeshine said Bucky Brooks, my bad, guys, predicts in his mock for us to get Kyle Hamilton, according to our guy, Philly Mike. Lock it in, Philly Mike. Hey, guys, if we get Kyle Hamilton at 15, it's time to celebrate, guys. That's a celebration. That's an impact player. That's incredible value at 15. And let's root our butts off that 2 quarterbacks go in the top 14 picks, top 12 picks. So let's hope 2 quarterbacks go, because that's how you slide your draft board. That's the way you slide the draft board. Let guys pick quarter. Listen, I'm not saying these quarterbacks can't play. That's not what I'm insinuating, guys. I don't think that there's necessarily the same guys where I look at their film and I say locks. Like Burrow felt like a lock to me when you watch the film. When I watched Justin Herbert, I felt like that dude's the arm talent. It feels like that guy's going to be a lock to me. I don't necessarily get that feeling from these guys, but it doesn't mean that the overall depth of the quarterback position in this draft class isn't still good. It's just they don't have that upper tier. And to be fair, go back to the Patrick Mahomes and, Deshaun Watson draft. You know what I mean? Like, they were saying a lot of the same things, and those dudes turn out to be really good, man. So you always got to be a little suspicious. Takeem said Giants pick at 5 and 7. Panthers pick at 6. Broncos pick at 9. Washington picks 11. Vikings pick 12. Kenny Pickett and Matt Corral will be gone by pick 15. Even the Falcons at 8 can take a quarter. Yeah, that's very true, man. Very true. What's up, Shaka? How you doing? He said, get them likes up. Appreciate you, man. Shaka says, support our guy with some likes. Thank you guys so much, man. Thank you all. NFC's B says, at Takeem Hilton, I don't think the Vikings will pick a quarterback. They got one last year in the second. I agree with the other 4 teams and think 3 of them will take a quarterback. NFC's beast. I don't know about that, man. I'm not guaranteeing anything, NFC's beast. But hear me out for a second. I love Kellen Mond. I was very high on him coming out of the draft. The rumor was Kellen Mond didn't get into football games, and they played Minion because he wasn't ready to get on the NFL field. So I don't know that if they move on from Kirk Cousins, that we can just trust that they're going to slide Kellen Mond in at quarterback. And I know that I was one of the guys. I pumped Kellen Mond up before Chris Sims did. I thought his film was quite impressive, but it was only, I don't know, man. I still like Kellen Mond, NFC's beast. I do, but I don't know that it's going to be enough to deter them from taking a quarterback. iShine said, can you imagine if we got Hamilton? Dude, Hamilton, Lloyd, and he always Ojabo. Man, dude, the athleticism of that defense would be outstanding, iShine. Just the pure athleticism we could put out there on the field would be crazy. I think 3 are going in the first round. Also, second round projection, O-linemen will go in the first round. Players are going to fall. 100%, Dante. 100%. We know that if you can play tackle in this league, you have a chance of being overdrafted. If you can throw a football and you're over 6'1" in this league, you're 6'2" or above, you got a chance of being overdrafted, right? I mean, let's just be honest. What's up, Blaze? He said, oh, yeah, I was wondering, Gates, but I'm not trying to be rude, but where are you a football player on a team or no? I'm sorry, are you saying where? Yes, I played quarterback, guys. I played quarterback for 2 years. I was originally a flanker. I got converted into a quarterback due to injury, guys. I played a little bit before high school and middle school, and then really and honestly, 99% of everything I've learned, Blaze, has come from coaching, mostly coaching in camps. I've coached high school football, got about 10 years of coaching experience. I got about 6 years running camps, and I spent 2 years actually evaluating talent. I've worked as an FCS regional scout for 2 years. What's up, Show Enough? How you doing, man? Occam Razor said, I would trade 15 for a first next season and an extra third this year and draft at 16 and 19. If the Eagles select a quarterback in the first round, how would you feel? There's nothing we can do about it, Dante. I don't think it's the right move. But if that dude turns out to be the franchise guy that you have for 10, 12 years, nobody's going to care. You know what I mean? But it's not personally the way I would approach the draft. But I can't predict what these guys are going to do, man. It's really hard. Takeem said Vikings can easily draft a quarterback in the first round. Kellen Mond would have to compete for the starting job. Teams draft second and third round quarterbacks all the time, then draft a first rounder the next year. 100%, man. Brandon Brooks played a ton of great football for the Eagles. Good luck to him if he retires. Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, yeah, 100%. Yeah, guys, a mauler at the O-line. Man, if you got Lane, Brandon Brooks, Kelsey, Dickerson, and Mulata, dude, look out, man. If that line is healthy for the duration of a season, we would absolutely maul dudes. There's just no doubt about it. He said, I don't think Malik Willis gets past the Saints at pick 18. I think it's very possible to. If he does, then I think the teams will be calling the Eagles, to be honest, at 19. Aquanu from NC State would be a great replacement for Brandon Brooks. He hasn't really played the right side at NC State, but he's played the left side. He's crazy athletic. He's really good. Look, man, you always got to take things from me when it comes to NC State with a grain of salt because I'm an NC State homer. But he's a player I like a lot. I believe there will be 2 quarterbacks that go before we pick, and a total of 4 in the first round. Wow, okay. He said, once the draft gets closer, Howell, Pickett, Strong, and Willis or Ritter. Strong, I would watch Carson Strong. So the only issue I have with Carson Strong has to do with the knee. So he suffered an injury, and there's a lot of rumors going on about the extent of the injury to the knee. You got to watch the medical. So we got to see if there's any kind of like bone-on-bone damage to that knee. But I agree that if you really watch Carson Strong throw the football, he's got to improve upon throwing the ball deeper than 25 yards as base gets away from him. But He's got the arm strength you look for, and he's got the frame that a lot of these organizations want. What's up? He said, "What's up, Big Birds?" He said, "I just feel like the quarterbacks are being underplayed now, but after the combine and pro days, guys are going to start gaining more." 100%, 100%. Agree with that one, 100%, man. I think 3 will go in the top 15, and the Eagles could be sitting in the catbird seat. You can come at me too. Water off a duck's back. Hey, yeah. I mean, hot takes are made to be wrong sometimes, right? Do you really think the Eagles will make 3 picks in the first round? Probably not, Big Al. Probably not. Jediah, what's up, man? Said, what's up? Any word on them getting rid of Rager yet? Look, we talked about this last night on the stream. If you can find a team that's trying to swap disappointments, right, and wants to get rid of a guy like a Jalen Hurd from San Francisco, right, big physical dude, played running back in high school, he's going to give you everything that JJ and Rager can give you. It's a matter of can he play special teams, and I don't have the answer for that, guys, to be quite honest. Sure, swap those kind of guys, save face. It's a save face kind of move, right? Hard to say, guys. It's really hard to say. It's really difficult to see them giving up on the first round pick already, but who knows, guys? Who knows? Eagles has landed said, if Kenny Pickett somehow slipped to 15, am I running the card up there? I truly believe in that kid. I mean, look, it's hard to predict how these guys are going to play in the NFL. Eagles has landed. For the Eagles' perspective, I would not make this pick. I just wouldn't. But does that mean that Kenny Pickett's not going to be a good player in the NFL? I don't necessarily agree with that either. I mean, look, Max Brown talked to me about Kenny Pickett. When Max Brown transferred from USC and ended up at Pitt, you know, he was presumed to be the starter. And at that time, Kenny Pickett was a freshman. And he said even as a freshman at Pitt, Kenny Pickett there was clearly talent there with Kenny Pickett. You know, Max gave me some insight to a few guys like Sam Darnold. He played with Sam Darnold at USC before he left. Then he played with Kenny Pickett before he left Pittsburgh and went into the league. I mean, those guys, you know, he seemed to say that not that he guaranteed he's going to be an NFL quarterback, but he said the talent level is probably better. And this is, mind you, this was before the 2021 season, guys. We were talking, you know, Max and I were talking back in March of 2021. And he said that Kenny Pickett might be a guy that kind of has that breakout year. Natiro said, when you were coaching, how did you learn the X's and O's? Did you have a mentor or did you go to courses? So no, I didn't go to courses. You have to have a mentor, guys. You got to get around people who are smarter than you. I had a coach. I had a guy that I coached with out here in not in Greensboro, out in Winston-Salem, who he said something to me, and he said, Steve, never be the smartest guy in the room. If you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. And that's always stuck with me. Never be the smartest guy in the room. And I just got around guys who were very smart. They understood the game. And then I got involved in basically coaching camps. And once you get into camps, guys, you're around some elite dudes. You learn a lot. You learn a ton about football. Then through this YouTube channel, guys, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of dudes, man. You know, Jalen's a former collegiate player. Caleb's a former collegiate player. Max Brown's a former collegiate player. I've had an opportunity to pick the minds of a lot of guys who've cued me into how they're viewing things, the way they look at it, and that stuff sticks with you. And then you start using it, right? I mean, to me, I think you learn more from camps than you do from even coaching, to be quite honest. If I'm being 100% correct, guys, if I'm being right up front with you, you're going to learn so much more from participating and working in camps than you will from just coaching high school football. But that doesn't mean you still can't get around the right people in high school football too and learn a crap ton. For reference, Philip Rivers' father coached out here in North Carolina. Our backup quarterback, Josh McCown, he coached out by Charlotte for a while. Like, you know, the backup quarterback we had back in 2019, Josh McCown. So, I mean, there's some brilliant minds out here, guys. Robert Thomas said, please trade Miles Sanders and draft Brian Robinson Jr. What's up, Robert? How you doing, buddy? Show Enough said, if I'm taking a quarterback, I believe Ritter will be there in the second. Maybe. If so, with the proper coaching, he could be Watson, like not Watson, though. Yeah, I think that was what I was saying on the live stream, that Howie would put himself in a weird predicament if he took a quarterback in the first round. But what he said, in my opinion, this is opinion, guys, what he said does not preclude him from taking a guy in the second and third round and spinning a narrative. He can easily spin a narrative. You know what I mean? Matt Hatter said Malik Willis is going to the Falcons, get 2 years behind Ryan to develop. It's possible, man. Possible. Aishan said primarily Bucky has a lot of offensive linemen going early in the draft. I think that's a good perspective to keep, to be honest. We need to give Minshew a shot before we just pick up a new quarterback for no reason. Guy just needs to learn how to scramble, and he's a better weapon than Hurts. I disagree with that aspect of it. He's never going to be the weapon that Hurts is in terms of the dual threat abilities. He's not that type of athlete. However, I do agree that it's probably a smarter play that if you give Hurts the opportunity and it doesn't work with Hurts, you'd be better suited to turn to Minshew first and then play the 23 draft and to go into 2022, unless you believe in a guy. Here's my thing, guys. If you believe in a guy, then you fully commit and you go get him. If you don't believe in a guy, then you don't flirt around with it. You know what I mean? That's kind of the way it kind of works here. Give you Hall in the second or third round. What's up, Big Birds? How you doing, buddy? We could have drafted Mac Jones or Fields last year. Takeem said, I can see Carson Strong going as high as 22 to the Raiders. Derek Carr is on his way out. Strong wouldn't have to start right away. Could sit him in his first year like the 49ers did with Trey Lance. Takeem said he doesn't think the Falcons will draft Willis that high. Any word on Jonathan Gannon getting a head coaching job? I am just not sure his scheme works for us with a run-first offense. Well, I still think it works with a run-first offense. I mean, but I get what you're saying. Like, the falling behind in games, the points he gives up in the first quarter is problematic for the style of play that we have. And I do agree with that. But I do think that there's explosion to our offense, even in the running game. With that said, I also think you got to give him an opportunity. If he's here, you got to give him the opportunity to incorporate his guys, see how he does once he starts plugging in other guys into the system. See because there are some things schematically that are not right. I agree. There are some things schematically that don't make sense, but you got to give him an opportunity with his guys that can, to be fair, there were times where we could have definitely gotten off the field with a 3-yard gain from our opponent if our dudes could just make tackles in the open field. And then we miss tackles, turns into 6, 7, 8, 9 yards. All of a sudden, the offenses are on schedule against us and they're just moving down the field. And then they put up points on us. I think there's a lot of complexity to it, guys, if I'm being honest. But yeah, no doubt about it, guys. All right, y'all, it's an hour and 32 minutes. I want to make sure I can get off of here so I can catch that press conference, guys. I want to be able to, see Gannon talk, or not Gannon talk, my bad, guys. I want to be able to see Brandon Brooks talk and just see kind of like what's going on here. Is he retiring? Is he just reworking his deal to come back? I mean, lot to discern and a lot to figure out here, right? When it comes to this, I'm going to call him a young man, but he's not that young anymore. I appreciate you guys. Tomorrow morning we'll be back 9:05 a.m. We're going to keep going over position groups. I think we're going to kick it off with interior defensive linemen tomorrow, guys. We're going to talk about that interior defensive line. So far, Monday, I believe Monday we talked about safeties, right? Tuesday we talked about linebackers. Today we've talked about defensive ends. Tomorrow we will talk about interior defensive linemen, and then maybe Friday we'll come back with a special kind of show to talk about corners, guys. All right, y'all, man. I really, really appreciate it. Here from Philly Talk. Big fan of you, man. Keep it going. Thanks for the morning chat. Hey, no problem, guys. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you. But yeah, guys, see y'all tomorrow morning, guys. I got a video coming out today. Sorry, let me get Mad Hatter. I got you, buddy. Carson Strong missed his senior 27 after knee surgery when an MRI revealed, and I don't know how to say that, and resulted in 8 nails being inserted. Ooh, that's a serious injury, Mad Hatter. Yeah, you got to see the medical. You got to see the medicals behind that. Appreciate you for tuning in today, Blaze. Thank you, buddy. Takeem, appreciate you guys. Kevin, let me get your comment in real quick before I leave, buddy. He said we are set up to make a huge youth move on our defense with all the talent and picks. 100% believe that one, Kevin. 100%, guys. All right, y'all. Let's hope. Let's see what. Well, let's not hope, but let's see what Brandon Brooks has got to say, guys.